Nobody watches it. I do watch it. That's how I caught it. Okay, so we are recording. And as I was telling a few minutes ago, this is our last Zoom class as planned as of now. And I got the permission from the doctor to come to ATA campus to drive and come there. So that should be it. So on Monday, we will meet in Scout 201 at 12:40. Remember that. Now, another thing I wanted to mention was the homework. I graded all your essays, and generally people have written very well. I really like, what I see there, and you have understood the concept. Some students put in a lot of effort. They have written, multiple paragraphs. Some people have written just a few words. I would encourage the students that write only a few words to write a little more, and I reduce the points like a token symbol to tell them that they need to put in a little more effort into that. My objective is to kind of, make you spend anywhere from 1 to 2 hours per week on the homework. It is not much, it is very appropriate. And given the huge nature of supply chains, you really have to read. You really have to understand what's going on in the supply chains. That's why I tend to give a little more homework, because I myself feel like, oh, I have to make a homework out of this, otherwise students won't get it. And we can only talk so much in the class. And in case if it is too much time or if it is too hard, please do let me know, okay, related to your any workload issues. I am very open to hearing them. And if it is too much, I can surely adjust. And I will be dropping a whole bunch, okay? You may be doing, 3 or 4 assignments a week. At the end, it may count only, 2.5 at the end of the semester, something like that. So I will be dropping a lot of low scoring assignments. And also remember that I always go and make some new top hat questions. And I did make some top hat questions based on last class as well. So remember that, and I will keep on updating that so that you will know that there is something going on. And as I mentioned, next class, I already mentioned it, so we can just ignore and move on. Anyways, any questions before we get started? We are at 11 students in the class right now. I realize that if you are talking over Zoom, especially after watching my own Zoom videos, I have to talk slowly, give pauses, so that I don't overwhelm anybody with my enthusiasm. That's a big lesson I learned pretty late, actually, because the whole of last year, I was teaching via Zoom, but that realization kind of did happen, and or it kind of get reinforced, I guess. Okay, if there are no questions, let's go ahead with the PowerPoint presentation, okay? So we saw these 7 principles, and I wanted to, emphasize these 7 principles. That's why I jumped, hard and fast and hard into this. And these are the important concepts that you have to remember, 10 years down the road. If you are working in some business, you have to recognize that these are the important concepts when it comes to supply chains. So first, you have to know what your customers' needs are. Talking a little bit about that in your chapters 3 and 4, as I said. And you have to customize, how do you move the product, how do you package, and how do you brand it, and all those things. And then aligning the demand with your supply chain. So you have to know what the demand is going to be for the future, and accordingly you have to make changes, because there is a lag time. There is about 2 or 3 weeks for you to get the product. Whereas in case if you're working for Walmart, it can take 3 or 4 months. And actually the car manufacturing companies, they will be planning years ahead of time, okay? Whereas countries will be planning decades ahead of time. So you have to plan ahead of time. This is where we were looking at the forecasting activity. And I probably overwhelmed some of you. I just mainly wanted to mention that this kind of forecasting is important when it comes to, your advancement within the supply chains area. That's what I'm trying to tell. Then we have to differentiate the products closer to the customer. That is, you don't want to make the product and say, hey, customer, come and take my product because I made it for you. You have to ask what they want and then make those changes. That is principle number 4. And that is where essentially I did not share the screen. And right now I am sharing the screen. I just checked it. Okay. So now, this is where you have to understand why the customer needs are very important. They are important, and you have to make your product determination. How do you manufacture your product? How do you provide it to them? Depends on what they want. So there are two important concepts that you can understand, that you can think of. First one is you are forecasting. You say, oh, you know what, this is going to happen and I have to make this many lemonade bottles so that I can sell. So you are essentially manufacturing, you put it in a bottle and you are waiting for people to come and take it. That is pushing. You are pushing it as a seller. Whereas the pull is where the customer places the order first and then you start making your lemonade. Maybe lemonade with a ginger flavor, maybe lemonade with some alcohol, that is that spike hard lemonade or something like that, So you change your customer, or you change your product according to the customer order. This is the actual customer demand. So you have to know how much importance you are giving to your own forecast versus what the customer actually wants. And supply chain people suggest that you really have to pay attention to the actual customer demand. And that is where all these different principles are important for you. The first one is you make the lemonade and you take it to your retailer and you are selling it as lemonade itself. So it is sitting in Sam's Club warehouse as lemonade bottles. That is make to stock. Okay. Here you forecast and you are just doing it according every month or every week. You are sending certain amount of units to Sam's Club, let's say, or Costco, or Walmart for that sake. Whereas you can also say, you know what, I made it, I am ready to send it, but then where do I send? Am I going to send it to the East Coast, West Coast, or am I going to be selling it online? All those sales channels, we haven't decided. That is what they call distribute to order. So you will distribute based on how the orders come into your company. So you make the bottles, you keep it ready, but you are not distributing it yet. So in this case, the customer orders essentially determine where it will get distributed. Okay. Assemble to order, that is, you are even waiting to check with the customer whether they want that particular combination or not. Do you need to put ginger or not? How much ginger do you want to put? How much spicy you want to make? So you are going to wait on that. Okay. So those kind of things. Now, assemble to order, make to order, we don't want to make that much of a difference, or at least I don't make much of a difference. Both of them are kind of, similar. Whereas engineer to order is you are not even buying the lemons yet. Even the sourcing depends upon the customer demand. If the customer says, I don't like this yellow lemon, I like the green limes, then you have to change your sourcing itself. Okay. And what the supply chain principle, the principle number 4 of supply chain says is, you have more opportunities to differentiate and meet the customer expectations in these cases. Make to order, assemble to order, engineer to order. Okay. So as you can see here in all these cases, all these, okay, this particular triangle. Okay. So on this particular area, all this area, you are waiting for the customers to tell you what should happen, and accordingly you will do it. Whereas all these are based upon your pre-existing forecast and you are going by that. Now, when you forecast, are you going to be 100% right? Not at all, okay? As I said, there are different ways of forecasting. Based on the forecast, you will be making, 7 pallets of lemonade, or maybe 25 pallets of lemonade, but your forecast can be very wrong. And if you are wrong, then you will end up losing a lot of money, and we don't want that to happen. That is why supply chain principles, supply chain managers generally wait for more and more opportunities to know what the customers want, and accordingly they can produce. So that's one important thing. Ouch. Okay, having said that, any questions on that? That is the picture that I missed out, and I thought I will quickly share that with you, because we don't want anybody to be wondering what happened. I did make a top hat question based on that. There are some homework questions I believe that is in chapter 6. So when we do the chapter 6 reading assignment, you will see questions from that particular picture that I just showed you. Okay. Okay. So having said that, let's move on with these principles. And principle number 5 says, you don't have to do everything. You can give it to somebody else that can do things for you, because then you can focus on what you are good at. You are really good at assembling. That means you better assemble. Somebody else place the order, or somebody else take care of the sales, so that you don't have to do everything. You don't have to wear all the hats. That's the meaning of outsourcing. You don't have to wear all the hats. And then develop IT. We will be talking a lot of different IT examples in this class, and already some of you have seen them as part of your case studies. And then you have to have good metrics. You have to measure whether you are making good progress or not. That is, you want to sell certain amount of units and you need to make some profits, then you have to do that. Now, if you are not clear with your supply chain and you tell your salespeople, hey, you know what? I made about 1,000 units of lemonade bottles and I want all the 1,000 to be sold. If you tell that, okay, salespeople will be, oh, my supply chain manager manufactured a lot more than what was needed, and now I have to sell it. So they may go and sell it for a loss, and we don't want that to happen, right? So you really have to coordinate with your different teams, and that is where we call it as a cross-disciplinary. Even though you work in supply chains, even though you work in manufacturing, even though you are a supply chain manager, you still have to coordinate with your procurement manager who gets the lemons. And you also have to coordinate with the salespeople who are actually selling it for, what amount of profit and things like that. And that is where I came across this article, What Matters More, like that. So maybe I should copy and paste this one and you can go ahead and read it. And it's a reasonably good article that essentially tells you what you are measuring and whether you are meeting your objectives or not. And, so there are some important things that are given here. I don't want to keep on talking about this thing. Essentially, it says you have to be very particular about what you're measuring. You don't want to measure the wrong thing, because once you start measuring the wrong thing, then people will start putting together, BS so that they can fill that particular criteria. That's the whole idea behind that particular article. Anyways, so this is the picture that we missed out. Remember that you have to differentiate and meet the customer expectations. And that is what we are going to do as part of today's lecture in the context of agribusiness and food supply chains. Okay, so having said that, this is where we left off. And I said, hey, you know what? There is a consumer, they are going to buy your products and they have to go from your farm, your ranch, your production operation. It can go through various channels. And so the channels of distribution is essentially the supply chain, and it can go directly through farmers markets, or it can go through wholesaler, retailer, and everything. It can go through manufacturing, wholesaler, and then commercial service and non-commercial food services, and then go to the customer. So there are different channels that it can happen, and all these channels will be different depending upon the product you are dealing with. Here are the products from corn, and here are the products from soybeans. Soybeans especially has a lot more product variety, okay? In fact, if you'll pay close attention to how the industries have been organized, in Ohio, corn and wheat have one association, and Ohio Soybean Council is a different association, because soybeans people feel like they have a lot more products that they can provide, and they don't want to be added as an add-on to corn. They don't want to be known as corn and soybeans. They want to be known as soybeans, because soybeans have quite a few product varieties, as you can see here. And in fact, there are some other examples that we will see soon as well. Now, remember that why are we even interested in supply chains? Because supply chains are the ones that ultimately determine the costs. And once the costs are determined, that will determine your selling price, and your company's entire profits depend upon what you do as a supply chain manager. Okay. And as a supply chain manager, you have to pay attention to all these different factors. And that is what we are going to be focusing on from now on. Okay. weather, global demand, limited farmland, etc., all those different factors. So having said that, I have been talking a lot, so pay attention to this particular slide. Some of you may have already seen this slide in my marketing class last year. So here are two yellow colors. Do you see two different slight differences in the yellow color, shades of yellow color over here? Can somebody say yes or no? I cannot see your screens.
Yes.
Okay, so there is a small difference in those two yellow colors, right? So tell me, if these are the two yellow colors that you see on bananas in Walmart, which one would you buy? Is it the one on the top or one on the bottom?
The one on the top.
The one on the top. And I don't know who said that. I didn't notice. Is it Alex or Luis? I don't know. Zach, maybe, I don't know. Oh, Zach is there, okay. So anyways, so some of you say the one on the top is what you would buy, maybe because it's a little brighter, right? Now they did a study, and what they realized was the one on the top did not sell much, the one on the bottom sold much. This was an old study, okay? But things have changed even further. That's what I'm trying to tell. The customer preferences keep evolving, okay? I went and saw one another banana ripeness chart. And if I go to Walmart today, these are the different type of bananas that I can, buy, and which ones are common in Walmart and Sam's Club for that sake. Which is more common nowadays? What do you guys think?
5 and 6.
5 and 6, which is very similar to those bananas, right? Not exactly. What you are seeing today in the stores are these colors. Why? Anybody?
Because then they still have time to ripen before they get bad.
Exactly. Now, who is the person who decides at what stage it will be harvested? It is the supply chain manager. Okay. Now, when I go to Sam's Club or Walmart or even a grocery, maybe if I go to a convenience store, I may want an yellow color banana because I'm going to be eating it right away. Okay, because it's convenience, right? I'm paying more money for the convenience. Whereas if I go and buy in bulk from a store such as Costco or Walmart or Sam's Club for that sake, I want to keep it for the next 4 or 5 days, and I don't want everything to be ripened at the same time. The point I'm trying to make here is the person who decides at what stage it will be harvested is actually the supply chain manager that manages it. And they have to make sure that it is available to the customer at the right time so that they can let it ripe to this level so that I can eat it at this stage rather than it goes to this stage. Now, if you go to Aldi, you will see a lot of this. Have you seen them? You will see a lot of this on the 6 and 7 in Aldi. What is the reason? Because their business model is different. They want to provide you with low prices, and the low prices will be available for things that are going to go bad very soon. And agricultural products are pretty perishable, right? They will go real bad very soon. And in that case, they are looking for the low-cost products that they will be able to sell. So it's not like, so if you go into quite a few grocery stores right now, you will see more greenish bananas. Pay attention to it. Whereas if you go into Aldi, you will see more yellowish bananas because they are focusing on the customers or the customers that want to pay less price. But because of that, there is a lot of wastage that happens in Aldi. Aldi doesn't make a lot of money in bananas, in my opinion, okay, because I can see them being very badly managed, and also quite a bit is being crushed. So there's a lot of loss, easily 20 to 30 to 40% would be lost. I think I don't keep track of numbers, but that's what they will be doing. In fact, the supply chain manager has to keep track of how much did we harvest, at what level of maturity, and how much got sold and how much got wasted. Everything is a responsibility of you as a business owner if you're into bananas, okay? I'm not saying you have to do bananas. I'm just giving it as an example. Similarly, when it comes to soybeans, you have to know what the customers want and are you providing it in a right manner. And that is a responsibility, that is one of the key responsibilities of the supply chain manager. So remember that the consumer drives the whole supply chain. And it's not just the consumer. If you are going to be studying the supply chains, you also have to pay attention to the product you are dealing with. Is it a highly perishable product like bananas or milk? Or can you process it and then make it into a product that can be stored on the shelf? Now, do you need refrigeration for that product or not? These kind of issues can come up. So you have to pay attention to it. We will talk about it. Similarly, who are the producers that are involved in producing the product? Now you'll be thinking, wait a minute, I am a small farmer and I run a small farm business. That may be true. And there are quite a few like you. So you do have a lot of competition. Now, if you are a supply chain manager for somebody like ADM or Cargill or some other meat processing facility, you will figure out that there are very few producers in that industry, only 4 or 5 major producers. And I will show you some examples of that. So here we will talk about oligopoly. Oligo means few, poly means, essentially players in the economy. So when there are few players in the economy, how the prices will be determined or how the products will be put together, how they will compete with each other while they create the product and take it to the customer. You have to think about that. Production and distribution process, which is a big part of supply chains, we will talk about. I mentioned all these things on day 1 of our class, and I'm just kind of refreshing your memory. So these are the things we are going to see for the next 4 or 5 weeks. What are the industry norms within your industry? If you're producing commodities, whether it is agricultural products or non-agricultural products, whatever it is, what is the profit potential? And I will show you some examples. And profits and costs are directly related. If the costs are high, your profits will be low. And if your costs are low, then you have scope to increase your profit. So you have to recognize that. And then the governmental issues. So I will give you some examples of how to understand governmental issues, taxes and tariff and those kind of things, and how today's supply chains have gone global. The technological advancements I just mentioned, and there is a lot of things going on with these robots and things like that. So we will watch some videos for that as well. And in fact, some of your homework will focus on that. And then there are waste streams. These wastes are essentially the packaging materials that you create. And not just that, even the emissions, okay, the greenhouse gas emissions that lead to a lot of pollution in the atmosphere. As a supply chain manager, you have to pay attention to that as well. And then what are the risks? COVID-19 is a real big risk, and we will talk about which risks are there and how you should understand them and how you should incorporate them while you start sourcing the product for somebody. So these are all the things that we will be talking about over the next 4 or 5 classes. Having said that, let us get started with the consumer, the customer who buys your products. So this slide, this picture comes from our textbook, the second textbook, the food supply chains textbook. This one says, hey, you know what? Pay attention to what a human being eats in a particular lifetime in a developed country. Developed country would be like Western countries, US, Canada, UK, and all those places. Now, this is representative of the meat eaters, not necessarily any vegetarians, are not representative of me because I eat only less amount of meat nowadays, not a lot. So let us look at what an average person would need. Now, as a supply chain manager, you have to understand how much do they want. For instance, according to this picture, which was put together, I believe in 2010, I believe, so it's a little dated, it's almost a decade ago, it says one dairy cow's lifetime production, the milk from the dairy cow is eaten by this guy, by one person. So if there are 360 million people on the planet, in the country, 326, I think, million people in the country, then you need that many dairy cows. So you have to pay attention to it. How many dairy cows are there and how much production is happening, and are we overproducing it? Because that did happen in the dairy industry, which resulted in the prices falling down recently, okay? So as a supply chain manager, they were all looking at how many cows are there and what is the total production and how it is affecting the market prices. They paid attention. Now, the same picture says, hey, you know what? The same guy also eats 4 beef cattle, okay? And one of this picture is equal to 1 beef cattle. So that person eats 4 beef cattle over their entire lifetime. When it comes to pork, one picture like this is equal to 5 pigs, and there are 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there are 4 times 2. So they eat about 20 pigs in their lifetime. Okay, that is whatever their weight is, you can just multiply that. When it comes to sheep, the legend says 1 lamb is equal to 5. And how many of them are here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 times 5, 30 sheep that they are eating. Okay, so you can see how much amount of meat is being eaten. How many eggs are being eaten? 1 chicken is equal to 5 of them. Okay, 5 chickens lifetime production. That many eggs they are eating. So here we are eating 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 times 5, 35 chickens lifetime production eggs. So 1 chicken will be laying about 200 to 250 eggs in their life in 1 year. Now you calculate how many years they live, and you just multiply the number of eggs that are being produced. That many eggs are being eaten by 1 person. Okay, that single same person. Now, when it comes to turkey, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 times 5, 45 turkeys, because it says 5 turkeys for each one of them. So you eat 45 turkeys worth. And when it comes to chicken, okay, there was one student in my econ class that said, hey, you know what? I want to know why the grocery stores sell a lot more chicken than beef. Okay, and you will see that, in fact, because one of these boxes is equal to 50 chicken, and you calculate how many boxes are here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 20 times 50, 1,000 chicken they are eating. Okay, according to this picture. Now, these numbers, are they going to be the same? No, not at all. It can be different depending upon the part of the country, depending upon the person. But the point that I am trying to make here is this much amount of meat is being eaten by all different people in a developed world that you can see here. So you, as a supply chain manager, you have to understand how much is being eaten and how much you are producing, or who is your customer. Now, some of you will be thinking, wait a minute, I am a small producer. I just produce, I have like 50 cows. I don't have to worry about those things. That may be true, but it's also important that you know where the demand is or what is being consumed. And accordingly, you can make changes. Now, if you don't go after this typical customer, that's fine. Maybe there is some other customer who may be willing to pay a lot more price for very high quality product. For instance, I went to a facility somewhere near Columbus. They make shrimp. Okay, they just produce shrimp. Now, if you go to Costco or say Walmart, you can buy shrimp for anywhere from say $2 to $3 or $4 per pound. Okay, that is Costco. Whereas, or Sam's Club, whereas they are selling it for anywhere from $15 to $20 a pound. I was like, really? You are able to sell it for such a high price? They said that is their target audience. They are not interested in selling in bulk quantities. They are focusing only on the local customers who are willing to pay fresh for really big shrimp. They told that openly. They told that this happened just before pandemic. I was going to Columbus, and on the way back, I just stopped by their facility just to see how they, produce shrimp in an indoor facility somewhere near Columbus. So that's the point. You have to know who your customers are. And if they are willing to pay more, that's well and good. You can very well go after that particular customer, and accordingly you can produce. You don't have to go by, what is happening at the national level. But then in a supply chains course, you also have to understand the total national level numbers. And that is the economist viewpoint. what is the total supply in the market and what is the total demand in the market, and whether they are in sync or we have to import a lot of products from foreign countries. They are the type of questions. So all of them kind of come together. So that one essentially tells you how to think about the customer. Okay, so let's move on. Any questions before I move on? Make it go away. How to make it go away? Okay, so hopefully it will go away now. Okay. So we have to know how much the customer wants and how much of that customer's demand you are able to produce. Now, there is an interesting thing. As you can see here, a person on an average eats about 4 beef cattle in their lifetime, right? And I have had some ATA students who have sold freezer meat, and they always tell, oh, we have about 50 customers and we will be selling them half a cow or quarter of a cow. And now they will know, okay, so I can potentially sell up to this much and how I can meet that particular demand for that particular person. So you know how much they are eating and how many people are in their household, and accordingly you can expect to sell up to 4 cows, over their lifetime. But then if they buy 5 or 6, you are happy. If you can sell 10, that's even better, right? So they are the ways how you should be thinking. So always think about who is at the end, who is the customer, what do they want? Okay. Some of you may have seen this movie, very old movie, What Women Want. That was one of the first movies that I saw when I came to the US. So that title kind of got stuck in my head. So I thought I will just put it there just for the fun of it. It's like one fictional movie. But the point is, what do people want? What do customers want? In case if you are going after women customers, obviously you need to know what women want. And in this case, what do the customers want and why do they buy? Okay, and that is where I want to show you this marketing concept. It is called as Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That is, the guy called Maslow, he came up with this concept, I believe, 1940s and 50s. And he said, hey, you know what? People buy things for different reasons. For some of them are very basic needs. They have to live and eat, and they need a roof over their head, and they need to feel secure because they don't want to be harmed by the weather. They don't want to be harmed by wild animals. So there are some basic physiological needs. And then there are some other needs that are more advanced. They want to feel more safety and secure, that you can see here, locks, and they want money for their retirement. And also some of the purchases are based upon love and belonging. That is, I belong to this particular group. For instance, this Harley Davidson, they have a big committed following among the Harley Davidson buyers. Why? Because they feel like they all belong to that particular group that all love Harley Davidsons, and they are willing to spend a lot of time, money, and effort because they want to be feeling a part of that community. How do they show it? They may even, they have even put tattoos, actually. I heard that they kind of tattoo Harley Davidson's name on their body. It seems that shows the emotional connection that they have. Sometimes people buy because it makes them feel very highly valued. You buy an electric vehicle, or even Prius for that sake. It kind of tells you that you care about the environment. Or you don't buy too much amount of meat because people feel like they have to make sure that the animals are treated properly. Or humane meat, the meat that was processed in a humane manner, that gives them the happiness that they are treating the animals with a lot more respect and those kind of things. And self-actualization essentially refers to, hey, I did it. Okay, what is a very good example? It is actually IKEA. If you go and buy something in IKEA, everything would come in brown boxes. Nothing would have been assembled. You have to take it home and you have to put it together. But after you put it together, and hopefully you got it right, okay, you will feel like, oh, I achieved something. I feel so happy. I made something happen. That is self-actualization. And so these are the complex needs at the top, and there are not many of them, but whereas the basic needs are more. Now you'll be thinking, okay, this is a marketing concept. Now, how am I going to use that for my knowledge as a supply chain manager in ag and food? And that is where I came up with this particular table. So as a supply chain manager, if you are going after the needs of your physiological needs of your customer, the very bottom one that you can see here, then you need to make sure that the food that you make or the feed that you create for animals is nutritious. It's a very basic need, right? You need to get fat, protein, and carbohydrate, and the nutrients and the minerals. So you need to put all those things. That the product is without debris, because you are dealing with corn grains, and we don't want too much amount of debris or impurities or no harmful chemicals. Whereas the harmful chemicals is slightly a more advanced need. That is, as a supply chain manager, if you are going for safety, you can say, hey, you know what, we are producing only organic products, or we are producing products without too much use of harmful chemicals. You can do those things. For instance, last time when I taught this course, there was a speaker from, I mentioned this to you guys earlier, Freshmark in Massillon. And that guy said, all they do is they buy meat and they kind of, package the meat. They even cook the meat and they package it and sell it. And one of the primary things that they do as part of their operations is make sure that they keep records on clean sanitation in the facility, because they don't want any kind of harmful chemicals that can enter their supply chain, and that will affect not just their business, but even the customers' safety requirements, right? EPA comes and inspects on a daily basis. I even heard this. There is a company called 3D Meats. They essentially, they are a small butchering company. People can take their animals, get that butchered there. They are in Dalton, Ohio. There also, they said, every day somebody from EPA come and inspects. Why? Because the customers have a safety need. So in that case, you can focus on that as a supply chain manager. Whereas, as a supply chain manager, in case if you are going after the love and belonging, you can say, hey, you know what? We got all of our products from within Ohio so that we are able to sell it to the local Ohio customers. So you are branding your product as Ohio Proud. You guys can go and check online. Ohio Proud is a very famous brand. It costs only $25, but they say if you source, I believe 50 to 90% of the ingredients from within Ohio, then you can call it as Ohio Proud. Okay, so in that case, you are essentially going for the customer's need of buying potato chips that are Ohio grown. You get that? So that is how, as a supply chain manager, you can go change your operations. Whereas if you are going for esteem, okay, you may be dealing in coffee. Fair trade coffee. Have you guys heard that term at all? Fair trade coffee before? Anybody? Am I going too fast?
No, I've never heard of it.
You never heard of it, you said, Luis?
No.
Either have I. I've never heard of them.
You have not heard of that? Okay.
Nope.
One of the videos that I had linked in the some case studies homework assignment was the fair trade coffee. So at least some of you might have seen that. And that's the thing, you have to know the whole idea of fair trade coffee is all about how we can make sure that the customer spends the dollar, how we can take a bigger proportion of the dollar and give it to the farmers that are producing the coffee in Africa, in Asia. That's the point. Okay, so as we saw in the food dollar bill, only 7 to 14% of the customer spending comes to the farmers, right? This fair trade coffee says, you know what, it should not be just 14%. We have to give them 30%. We have to give them 35%. And so they are shortening the supply chains so that there are fewer intermediary companies, fewer wholesalers and retailers, so that a bigger portion of the money goes to the farmers. That is fair trade. Now, why are we talking about that in a supply chains class? Because that is one way how the supply chain can be formed. And the whole idea of that supply chain is providing the esteem, okay? I buy products that are supporting the farmers more than the intermediary wholesalers and retailers. Okay, many people, they come and buy the Amish products, which I feel like, it also gives them the esteem because it's produced using no technology or very less amount of the modern gadgets, because it's all very, manual labor, right, in this part of the thing. So that kind of gives a different type of esteem. Now, whether everybody will be interested in buying a product from you, whether every customer would be interested, not necessarily. Only some people will be interested in that, okay? Similarly, the next one is, how can you make self-actualization occur in agricultural related product marketing? And that is where I would say, if somebody wants to buy guacamole, you don't give them guacamole, you just give them the ingredients. You give them the avocados, you give them the tomatoes, you give them the, what's it called, chilies, the spices, everything. And then let them make it themselves. Once they make it, they feel a lot more happy. Hey, you know what, I was able to make it. The point is, in each and every one of these things, physiological, safety, love and belonging, you change your operation slightly, okay, as a agribusiness manager, and you have to think about it. And that is the key criteria that I want you to take away from this particular slide, okay? So understand your customer needs, and accordingly, you have to go for either free trade, or you give them the ingredients, or, if it is going to be potatoes, maybe you sell them the potatoes and the oil so that they make their own French fries. I'm just saying that. I'm not saying everybody should be doing everything. It all depends on your customer. So pay attention to your customer. And if your customer wants something that is very advanced and complex, then you have to provide them that. If they want something very simple, for instance, they are not a cooking type of people. They just want to go to a local convenience store. They want to buy something that is ready to eat. Maybe cheese sticks or yogurt that is ready to go, then you provide them. But when you provide them, you can also charge for a higher price for the convenience. That's why the milk sold in a grocery store is much cheaper than milk sold in a convenience store. Why? Because probably they want to save time, and nothing comes for free in economics, right, in business. So you can charge a high price. So you have to understand why the customer wants something. And that is where your marketing concepts that we have studied in BizTech 2231, which most of you would have taken, are applicable in this context as well. Now, as a supply chain manager, you have to understand what the trends are, and you can do a lot of research. So I'm just going to go here and type on this link. Come on. Okay. So once I'm here, there is a database called Mintel. Okay. OSU libraries have subscribed to them. Some of you might have seen that in my marketing class, and it's a marketing thing. So I just went there and then I just typed soybeans, okay, that you can see here. And immediately it says, hey, you know what, if you are into soybean production, these are the important things that are happening. Now, soybeans can be used as vegetables. So soybean kind of shows up on the vegetables report, and also as a dairy alternatives. And that is one important area that is developing. Many people are not buying dairy milk, but instead they are buying some other product. And if you click on that report, hopefully it opens right now. Okay, come on. And if it opens that report, as you will see here, what are all the different places where soybeans is actually getting used. So if you know that, and if there is one special type of soybeans that is being used for making the soybean milk, maybe you should be planting that so that you can go after selling your soybeans to that particular processing company so that you can get a premium price. That's the whole idea, okay? And so that is how you have to improve yourself in case if you're interested in soybeans. Now you can very well go ahead and do some other product that you are interested in. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy paste this link for you, okay, in the chat box. So go ahead, spend a few minutes. Okay, I just sent it to you. Go ahead, click on that. Acknowledge the permissions. It's an OSU thing. So hopefully you are logged into OSU system. Once you are here, type any product that you are interested in. I know Alex is interested in grapes, and Paige is interested in goats. So let me go ahead and type goat. She may be interested in selling. Oops, there is no suggestion. So there are not many goat related articles here, I guess. Yeah, Paul. Oh no, there are some actually. There are something related to, oh, that's not the goat. Okay, cheese. Okay. Do I buy a tree or a goat? That's one of the strangest things I have seen here. Let me type grapes in case if, actually not grapes. He is interested in wine because he is interested in manufacturing wine. So when you click on wine, it brings a whole bunch of wine related research databases. And I particularly refer to this Mintel because Mintel has a big focus on the consumers, okay, among all the other databases. And it tells you which particular wines are growing in the US right now. So Alex, are you in the class right now? Alex is there, I think. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, will a report like this be helpful for you to manufacture the right product and make it available to the consumers in the right manner?
Yeah, definitely. It helps me figure out which product I should be making.
Exactly. So just to help Alex out, I am just going to copy paste this new link also. So here it is, Alex. So that is your supply chain, okay? So this is how you have to pay attention to what the customers want within their supply chains, and accordingly you provide that as a supply chain manager. So you have to pay attention to the market research. And especially when it comes to consumer market research, this is a very useful website. Now there is another link in OSU libraries. They call all these databases are listed under market research. For instance, the Mintel that I just showed you is at the top that you can see here. Net Advantage is one, BCC Research is another one. So when you click on that, it will open up another database. They publish over 250 market research reports. They also tell you which ones are, which particular products are growing in importance and how much amount of a market support is there. What type of features are required by the customers. Because once you understand the features, then as a supply chain manager, you can put those features into your product. They want it in small sizes. They want it ready to go. They want it in spicy manner, whatever it is. Or if in case of Alex, it may be wine that is sweet wine. By the way, Alex, are you about 21?
I am not above 21 yet, no.
Then don't tell me whether you have tasted wine or not, okay? I don't want to hear and I don't want to report anything.
I'm allowed to taste it as long as my parents are around.
Good. So here it is. There is another report for you here, okay? Wine and brandy manufacturing, okay? So this can also be very, very helpful for you since you are interested in wineries. There is 2021 report. Every year, these people refresh their reports, okay? So please pay attention to these kind of reports because they can really make a big difference to you. Once you understand your industry, you will become a lot more knowledgeable about how the supply chains work and what are all the things you need to do to make your product more successful. And essentially, you will start contacting those suppliers that can put you in a much better place. You get that? So that is what I am trying to tell here. So anyways, I just sent it again for Alex. And in case, down the road, some people may be interested in agri-tourism. Some people are interested in tractors. So I will try to, share some other reports as well. It's not like only Alex or only Paige or only, Evelyn or somebody else like that. So remember that all these different reports are there. Hoover's online. Okay, it's not Hooters, it's Hoover's online. That's one silly joke that I make all the time. So if you click on that link, it will take you to another resource that will also be very helpful for you to understand what is common in that particular area. What things do customers need. So please pay attention to these type of reports because they essentially tell you what the trends are and how you can go about it. So we saw the Mintel database and the various market research databases that are available for you through OSU. Remember that everything starts with the customer and ends with the customer as well. And remember that there are differences. For instance, about half of the corn that is being produced in the US, or even more than half, are genetically modified corn. Okay, now you cannot sell that in Europe. Why? Because those customers in Europe are not interested in any GMO products at all. So if you are planning on exporting the product, okay, that's a part of your distribution system, you cannot sell GMO products in Europe. Okay, so you will have to sell it in China, in some other places. So you have to know those regional differences. Again, it's a customer expectations, right? The UK customer is not interested, whereas the Chinese customer who wants to buy the corn to feed their pigs may be very interested. So you need to know those things, and there are some other reports that will help you understand. Similarly, you have to think about branding, which is a perennial topic in the marketing class. So I thought I will just put it up there. And also, who are the important people that can make a big difference when it comes to your particular product. Similarly, you also have to pay attention to whether you are selling to a B2C customer or a B2B customer, because your supply chain, okay, yes, you are manufacturing the product here, these are your suppliers, and these are your customers, right? Now, you can directly sell to the customer. In that case, it's a B2C transaction, or you can sell it to wholesaler and the retailer and another processor, and it can go in various directions. In these cases, it's a B2B transaction. Now, why is this important? Because your needs as a B2C supplier versus B2B supplier are very different, okay? So go ahead. I don't know how many of you have access to this on your computers, this PowerPoint slides. This is from a company called Bain and Company. That is where I found these two triangles, two pyramids. I should not call it triangle, these two pyramids. And it says, hey, you know what? If you are dealing with B2C, as I told you, what are the things that the customers value when it comes to its functionality, when it comes to its emotional attachment to that, and life-changing, that is a lot more complex, and social impact. It's not like I want to eat something, I want to make an impact in my community. I want to feed the children who don't have money for buying food and those kind of things, okay? So you have to know what the customers want when it comes to B2C, and accordingly, you should do that. So I think we are running out of time. We are at the 1:34 mark. So anyways, Alex, you are my guinea pig today, okay? So tell me something so special about the wines that your family vineyard produces.
So something special would be we only make wines that can be grown locally.
That are
so
grown
that way we can show off what can be done in our area.
Very good. So which one of these values would you pick? There are tons of values that are given here. So locally you produce. So which one would that be? Affiliation and belonging. Would you say that? I belong to northwest part of Ohio and I am buying it from them. Would you consider that as a value that you provide through your product?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. Now, let me call upon Paige. Is she here in the class right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me one value that you want to provide while you are marketing your goats.
More of the customer service relations, but also providing a product that's raised in my specific county.
Okay, so in some kind of affiliation and belonging, affiliation and belonging you mentioned, and also the first one, what did you say?
More of like a customer service, personal relations.
Okay, customer, okay. Reduces effort, avoids hassles. Can you say that?
Yeah.
That's what you are focusing on. So the point that I am trying to make here is, depending upon the type of product you are dealing with and the customer needs, you are meeting different needs on this particular pyramid, okay? If you are meeting more and more values, then you can charge a higher and higher price as a business owner, as a supply chain manager, okay? But the supply chain manager is keenly integrated into all these decisions. And that is what I am trying to tell. Okay, now we are talking about general business in general, but at the same time, that is essentially a big part of your supply chains. And accordingly, you have to source all your products. For instance, if you want to say that you are locally made, whether it is a goat or a wine bottle, then you have to source the grapes and the animals from the local people as well, right? Even the feed that you can buy locally. And you have to use it actively in your marketing, actively in branding. When you post something on Facebook, you should say, hey, you know what? Thank you very much, so-and-so in that county of Ohio. We got it, we got the feed from you, and I can see that the goats are growing really well. So like that, you have to create that sense. And you will start, pulling various pieces together so that you can form your business and your supply chains, whether it is an input or selling it to your customer through your distribution channels. Okay, all these concepts are important. Having said that, we are at the 137 mark, and I say that one student already dropped out, and I don't want others to drop out before I finish talking. So please go ahead. If you have any questions, check with me. Otherwise, I will see you in ATI on Monday. Okay, so hopefully you learned something new today about. Thank you. Have a good not long weekend, just have a good weekend. See you. Take care.